This Tuesday, March 12th, NBA Betting Picks edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S.-based and available in 40 states. Head to cut.com, that's KUTT.com, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, NHL, college basketball, and more. Sign up today using promo code NBASGPN to get a 100% deposit match. And we're also brought to you by Champs. Run your own March Madness pool and enter Champs free bracket contest for a chance to win $1,000. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs to enter today. And we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, March the 12th, currently 11:08 on the East Coast. Here to get into our NBA betting picks for the Tuesday night card. And we'll recap what we saw in the association on Monday night. But joining me here to help me break it down on this Tuesday episode, you guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, the MLB Gambling Podcast, WNBA, NFL, and of course here on the NBA Gambling Podcast. It's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man? How you doing this Tuesday morning?
Doing pretty well. Feels good to be back. I was traveling, so apologies if you were hoping I'd be on the show for the last couple days, but I was not available. I know the NBA had a couple of good games last night. To be honest, most people cared about free agency in the NFL. That kind of dominated all the headlines, but still, NBA was fun yesterday, and hopefully we get a couple good games tonight.
Yeah, it turned out to be a pretty good show between myself and Terrell as far as our lock and dog picks went. Did sweep the board yesterday. I did have the Denver Nuggets team total to get over the number. Did barely get there. I got at around 123.5. Came out a little sleepy there in the first half. Did the Denver Nuggets. They were down by, I think 17 in that first half, and they turned it up in that third quarter.
They trailed by 22 at some point.
Yeah, they were down by 22 as a 7. I think the number closed at 17 and a half for the Denver Nuggets. But yeah, they woke up in the second half, outscored the Raptors 74-51. Did win the game, but obviously did not cover the spread. 125-119 was the final score. Give credit to Toronto Raptors for at least making this a competitive game, at least in the first half and into the second half. But did get to the window there. The books still keep giving us, Scott, a plus 150 price on Luka to record a triple-double. It was at plus 170 yesterday. He did get that. Again, I believe that's 7 straight now for Luka triple-doubles. They crushed the Chicago Bulls, 127-92. Luka finished with 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 14 assists. And then Terrell did also lock up the Mavs -4. That was in the bag pretty much within the first 6 minutes of the game. They outscored the Chicago Bulls 44-16 in the first quarter and didn't look back the rest of the way, win the game by 35 points, 127-92. And in Terrell fashion, he did take the Portland Trail Blazers as his dog last night. Boston took care of business in that game. They won the game by 22 points, but now they'll travel to Utah here tonight. We'll get into that game obviously later on. But yeah, pretty good night. The Suns and Cavs game was pretty good as well. What stood out to you last night as far as the NBA, Scott?
Joker. but I'd say that that's kind of expected, but I got to at least bring up the stat line that he had because he's now minus 250 to an MVP. So Shea was being held in, I'd say, striking distance for the last couple of months to an MVP, and it might annoy some people. I've been just hammering home the point that Joker should be MVP, and I really haven't hesitated at all from that stance for the last couple of months. And now Joker is about minus 250. Joker last night had 35, 17, and 12 with two blocks and 6 steals. Now I know Toronto's not a good team. I get that, and they were favored by a ton of points. But I was trying to tell people to bet Joker to win MVP, even at like minus 125. The odds doubled. Nothing against Shea. I know Shea's a great player, but Joker can put up these type of stat lines, and Shea can't.
Yeah.
It is what it
Yeah.
is. We know Shea is the model of consistency when it comes to scoring. We could make the running joke he's going to score either 31 or 30 points in every single night, which is impressive. But you look at Joker's numbers, his numbers are going to always look better than Shea's. They're just going to, because as a center, his field goal percentage is going to be solid no matter what. He's going to get a bunch of rebounds. He's going to get a bunch of assists, and he's going to pretty much dominate Shea in those categories. Now, you could also make the argument of the narrative, because Joker, you could argue, should have won the MVP last year. I disagree. I would have given it to Embiid because Joker kind of quit the MVP race in the last couple of weeks of that season. So I'm fine with Embiid winning the MVP last year, but some people think that he is truly the best player in the world, which he is, and they should try to give him a makeup MVP award. So the narrative was already there. The argument against Shea would be he's so young and so talented, he can still win a couple down the road, so there's no reason to rush it and to force one on him when Joker's clearly the better player. So, yeah, my main takeaway, Joker had another masterclass game, so I'll start there. Besides that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to talk about. Donovan Mitchell officially was eliminated from all postseason awards because he officially did not reach the game criteria. So Mitchell's officially ineligible for the All-NBA teams. I believe Jimmy Butler was the first star, quote-unquote, to miss that threshold, and now Mitchell's the second one to join him. I don't have any issues with it because, once again, I like the rule. I think when we talk about load management being an issue in the league for years at this point, and now you're finally requiring players to play, and some of them can't do it, it is what it is. You know, I like the actual rule, and it kind of sucks for Donovan Mitchell, but it is what it is. I got to bring it up. So Mitchell's not going to reach the criteria. Şengün's probably not going to reach the criteria, right? I don't know if he would have made it on the team.
I think he's done for the year. Yeah.
I think he is too.
I personally think he's
done. You get my
point.
But I'm bringing it up because the Suns had a nice comeback win against the Cavs. They probably shouldn't have been down that much anyway, but they still had a nice comeback there. And you saw Luka have another triple-double. So that's, I believe, his 7th in a row, I think. So Luka's been great. They're actually winning games now that he puts triple-doubles up in. But the main story for me was Joker doing Joker things. You had the crazy poster dunk against Wemby, which I have to mention because TJD absolutely just killed him at the rim. Wemby looked good, though, in his first game back, and that's kind of all I have to mention.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good night of hoops last night, like you mentioned. I mean, I think you covered the main points there. Golden State goes into San Antonio. I know San Antonio beat them on Saturday night in the Bay Area, and it was a kind of a revenge spot here for the Warriors last night against the Spurs. Obviously, no Steph Curry, at least for, I think, another couple games there. Nothing too serious when it comes to Steph Curry and his injury that he did sustain a couple games ago. So he should be back sooner rather than later for the Golden State Warriors. But yeah, it was a good night of hoops last night. But like you mentioned, the NFL free agency pretty much dominated the sports world yesterday with a lot of moves happening. So let's get into the schedule here for tonight. But before we do that here, for the Tuesday night card, I believe there was a 6-game schedule here tonight. Let me tell everyone about the Sports Gambling Podcast merch store. Hey, look, it's March Madness, and we're having Merch Madness. You get 15% off of everything in the merch store. Make sure you use that promo code MADNESS. There's a lot of great stuff on there, obviously, with the first round of the NCAA tournament kicking off here in a week or so. First half unders t-shirt. You know, if you've been around long enough at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, you know we're an advocate for those first half unders. So they have a great shirt for that. Make sure you get that. Obviously, the Court Storm shirts. That's been a popular piece there as well. And also, you guys make sure to check out the college basketball experience as well. Those guys have been cranking it up for the big tournament. But also, don't forget about getting the NBA Gambling Podcast gear, right? I know I've been working with Sean and Ryan to get us some more fun merch for the NBA Gambling Podcast show. Stay tuned. There may be something cool coming around the corner in the merch store for the NBA Gambling Podcast. But again, 15% off of everything for the month of March in honor of March Madness. So make sure you use that promo code MADNESS now until the tournament tips off. We about a week here till the big dance. So again, 15% off of everything in the merch store. Just go to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com. And we're also brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Peer-to-peer social betting is a new and better way to bet. Bet directly against your friends or other users on sports, politics, pop culture, and other events with verifiable outcomes, plus tons of fun social features that give it a feel of a betting social network. Cut offers lower vig and fully customizable odds. You can create your own bets. Cut handles the payment side of things, so you never chase anyone down for money. Social features include group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, and much more. They also have a rewards program, so you can get cash back for every single time you bet against your friends or other users. I know Sean and Ryan have a March Madness bet going on for the tournament upcoming. And then look, if you're in you're in your little friends group chat, right? And you guys are talking about bets, or if you want to go head to head, maybe you're disagreeing, put odds on it, put some money on it. You can do that over on Cut. But when you do, make sure you download the app first, or just go to cut.com and make sure you use that promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. Again, download Cut today in the App Store or go to cut.com. That's KUTT. .com. Use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. You can play their pick'em game. It's pretty simple. You pick your favorite players if they're going to have a higher or lower stat total in this week's games for a chance to win big. You can win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Pick between 2 and 5 players to build a pick'em entry. Can also make rivals picks, which picks 2 players against each other. Also, but when you do sign up, make sure you have promo code NBA SGPN, and you'll get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Hey, we're in that contest again against the other networks. Against the other shows on the network, I should say. Did fall just a little bit short last month, but appreciate everybody that did sign up with our promo code. But hey, we want to win this month. We can't do it without you guys. But when you do sign up, make sure you use that promo code NBA SGPN. You get your first deposit doubled up to $100. As well as an pick'em special. You must be 18 years or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Again, make sure you use that promo code NBA SGPN. All right, Scott, let's get into our picks here for the Tuesday night card. We'll kick it off here with the first game on the schedule. We've got the Philadelphia 76ers. They are in Madison Square Garden here tonight to take on the Knicks. Currently, the Knicks are a 6-point home favorite here with a total of 208.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams as I pull that up here. These two teams just recently played in probably the lowest scoring game in a while. I mean, I'll have to go back and look it up when the one we had a final score of 79-73 in the NBA. A lot of times we see that score at halftime, but that was the final score in the last game that these two teams matched up. Looking at the injury report for the Sixers, obviously no Joel Embiid, DeAnthony Milton continues to be out, and also Robert Covington. For the Knicks, OG Anunoby was upgraded to questionable. He's been out dealing with an elbow injury, but he is upgraded to questionable. And Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson continue to be out for this New York Knicks team. Scott, like I mentioned, Sixers did get the victory 79-73 the other night in one of the lower scoring affairs of the season, and in a good minute, I think. But back at it here tonight, Madison Square Garden, Knicks laying 6 points here. What are you thinking about this game?
So I know normally for the immediate rematch, we tend to just lean to the opposite of what happened in the first game. So you end up seeing, for example, the over and maybe the Knicks in this case. Do I want to lay 6.5 with the Knicks in this game? Not really. I think the Knicks are a team that we know have been really injured. We'll see if OG plays tonight, but still, Philly is a team that is not very good either, but at least they're feisty. They can hang in there, and they've been competitive recently. I mean, first of all, if you were at the game on the 10th, you should have gotten your money back because that game was absolutely abysmal. But still, I think I'm going to take the points here. I just don't trust the Knicks enough right now. I get the argument is the Knicks with OG maybe playing. I'll consider it if OG ends up playing, but I don't want to lay 6.5 with this team. They had a very nice win against Orlando. They looked very sharp, but they have lost a couple of. They've really not been good at home recently. To go through their last couple of home games, I'm just pulling up the recent schedule. They lost to the Sixers. They ended up losing to. They beat the Magic. They lost to the Hawks. Lost to the Warriors. Lost to the Pelicans. Barely beat the Pistons in a game they arguably should have lost, and they lost to the Celtics. So they've really not been good at MSG, even outright recently. And the Sixers have been, I'd say, physical with them, and it's had some success, but I'm going to lean under again. I just think that at the end of the day, I don't trust both teams to score. And the Knicks defensively have been very good. They've allowed less than 80 points in 2 straight games. So I'm going to lean to the under in that one, but I am going to lean to the Sixers. It just seems like a little bit too big of a spread to me when the Knicks offensively have just not been great for the last couple of weeks, really ever since the injuries piled up. I don't want to lay 6.5 with this team right now. So I'm going to lean to Philly.
Yeah, I know they also get Tyrese Maxey back here tonight, do the Sixers. He was in concussion protocol for about the past couple games for the Sixers. I think I missed the number on the Sixers because I think I saw it at 4.5, 5 last night. Now it's up to 6. I'll lean with the Knicks. I'm not going to have a dime on this game, but if you're looking for a pick from me and Scott, obviously we pick every single game here on the network, but I'll lean with the Knicks here. I do like your play about the under in this game. I mean, can you trust either one of these teams offensively right now? No, even with Tyrese Maxey being back. The Knicks, we know, like we've talked about it ever since Tom Thibodeau's taken over, that they're going to win games playing hard-nosed defense. And when your only offense right now is pretty much Jalen Brunson and teams are starting to put defensive plans together to really slow him down and make somebody else beat you. These are also 2 of the slower paced teams, right? The Knicks, we talked about it. They are one of the, if not the slowest paced team over the last 5 games in the association. So that all leads towards the under in this game here. So I'll lean towards the under with you, or I will be on the under here with you. Lean towards the Knicks here, minus a 6 at home. Player props, Scott, what are you looking at?
So for player props, I'm expecting an ugly game. I have to consider rebounds in some capacity. The question is, who am I going to want to take? Are you on Hartenstein for this game? Are you on Paul Reed? Are you going to try to branch out from those 2?
So I got burned by Paul Reed. I think this was maybe last week or the week prior because Nick Nurse is starting Mo Bamba for whatever reason, but Paul Reed is still obviously getting the minutes over Mo Bamba in those games. But I think Paul Reed should be a guy that should be out there for at least 30 minutes at minimum, and he just hasn't met that criteria over the last 5 games. He had only 7 rebounds in that last game, which is kind of concerning, especially because it was a brick fest. I mean, he did have 11 rebounds in the prior 2 games against Memphis and the New Orleans Pelicans, but I think for me, it's probably Hartenstein rebounds in this game.
I was trying to think if I wanted to make a case for Josh Hart, but he's at 9.5, which I understand, obviously, but I mean, 9.5 is just a little bit too high for me to take him with, but it was a lot more fun when he was at like 7.5 or 6.5 earlier in the year. I'm trying to think if there's any other props I'm really tempted by because I think this game should be pretty ugly. What do I want to go with? I see Mo Bamba's points are at 4.5. That makes me laugh. If you want to consider the under, that's at minus 130 if you want to find a fun prop. I'm not going to take the under, but Bamba has gone under in 8 of the last 10, if you care about that. Josh Hart points, I think, might be interesting. It's at 11.5. He's gone over in 8 of 10. It's at minus 125. Hart, we know, is going to play a bunch of minutes. He's one of Thibodeau's favorite players. I think that Hart 11.5 points feels a little bit low. I'd lean to the over on him.
Yeah, I'd probably also look at, like you mentioned, Mo Bamba's rebounds, points and rebounds to go under. But I mean, despite him starting games for the Sixers, he's not playing a lot of minutes. The most minutes he played was 20 minutes in that last game against the Knicks, where he did have 4 points and 1 rebound in 20 minutes. So if you want to look at his points and rebounds to go under here tonight, I don't hate that. That numbers were probably at 9.5. Is it for
Yeah.
Mo Bamba? I don't see it listed right now, but I mean, his, like you mentioned, his points are at 4.5, and his rebounds are let's see, are at 4.5 as well. So they're probably going to be at 9.5, 10.5 probably here tonight for Mo Bamba. So if you want to look at the under in that, you have anything else?
No, it's not really a game I'm that big of a fan of. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This next game should be more exciting. Complete opposite here. We got the Indiana Pacers. They are in Oklahoma City here tonight to take on the Pacers. Currently, taking on Thunder, I should say. The Thunder are a 6.5-point home favorite in this game with a total of 240.5. Injury report. Let's start here with the Pacers. Benedict Mathurin think they had said he's done for the year with a shoulder injury. Doug McBuckets continues to be out for the Indiana Pacers. For the OKC Thunder, pretty clean injury report. Jalen Williams is questionable here tonight. He's dealing with the ankle injury. But other than that, everybody is a go for the OKC Thunder. Thunder laying 6.5 here, hosting the Indiana Pacers here. Scott, what are you thinking about this game?
well, I got to be tempted by the over, first things first, because we know the pace should be crazy with these teams. And I do think you're going to end up seeing a lot of just offensive talent between these two teams. Now, Matherin's out for the year, which sucks because we know he was such a very talented player for the Pacers, and we'll see how they're able to overcome his absence. But I think I have to go with Oklahoma City because Indiana, all season long, has not exactly been a good road team. Now, recently they've been better on the road, beat Orlando by 14, and they ended up beating Dallas by 17. But still, Oklahoma City's won 3 straight. They've been putting up a bunch of points. We know this. But with Mathurin being out, Indiana's going to have to reinvent their scoring punch, like off the bench, or even just without having to rely on the ball being in Halliburton's hands the entire time. Because Mathurin did have some isolation scoring talent, and they don't have much of that on their roster. I think Mathurin being out's a very big deal, and I feel like not enough people are talking about it. So I'm going to take Oklahoma City. I need to see this team function for a long period of time without Mathurin before I just assume the offense will be able to continue rolling like it did for most of the season. I got to take Oklahoma City. This team's been great. We know Shea, no matter how good Halliburton is, Shea's the best player on the floor. I think Chet's going to be a matchup problem for this team. Jalen Williams is a guy who we know is very solid, but if he ends up not playing, Oklahoma City can still overcome his absence. I'm going to lean to Oklahoma City. They're in better form, but still, I do think you're looking at a spot where without Mathurin, I got to take a wait and see approach with Indiana, but I'm going to lean to Oklahoma City at home.
Yeah, the Pacers they just haven't been very good this season. Like you mentioned, number one on the road. But also in non-conference games, they haven't been very good either. They're 9-14-2 against the spread in non-conference games, only covering at 39%. They're 10-15 straight up in those spots. They're giving up 121.4 points per game in those spots. And then, like you also mentioned, if you want to tack on them being on the road in non-conference games, just 3-8 straight up, 4-6-1 against the spread, 9-2 towards the under. They're giving up 121 points in those spots as well. So I think that the Thunder will have a lot of success on the offensive side in this game. You mentioned that you're tempted by the over. I do like the Thunder team total over in this game. Again, I think that this defense is just not there for this Indiana Pacers team. They've improved over the past 5 games, I should say, where they're up to number, let's see here. I just saw this number. Yeah, up to number 19 as far as defense goes. Number 17. But Thunder have been just the better team this season, one of the best teams at home, like I mentioned, and those numbers are backing it up, right? 22-10 against the spread, 68.8%, 26-6 straight up at home. They're averaging 123 points per game at home. So with the pace that the Pacers play at, and I think that the OKC Thunder can run with them obviously as well, I think this is a game where there's a lot of success on the Thunder side as far as offense goes. So I like their team total to go over. I want to say I got that at 122.5 last night. It might be up to 123.5. But I think this good team could walk into 125 plus easy here tonight against this Pacers team. So Thunder -6.5, and then also the team total over in this game. You got anything as far as full game total or team totals?
I'm not going to take the under with these two teams. I'm going to lean to the over. Shea points, I got to be tempted by. He finally broke through the 31-point threshold, and he's actually putting up 35 now. So I do think Shea points. I don't think anybody on Indiana can guard him. So I think Shea can get whatever he wants the entire night. I'm trying to think if I want to go for Halliburton assists or not. I mean, probably, but what's it at now? It's at like 11.5, 12.5 for assists.
For his
Probably.
assist. Let me
It's
see
it's
here.
actually a 10.5 at plus money. It's actually a 10.5. Yeah, I'll
Interesting.
take plus 124 on the 10.5 assists. That feels like a pretty good number. Even if it might be a bit trappy, you don't get 10.5s at plus money with Halliburton that often for assists. So I'm
No.
gonna have to be tempted by that. Trying to think of what else I'm really tempted by. I think Jalen Smith actually can have a decent matchup here. His point prop is at 8.5. He's been really good recently for I'd say a forgotten bench player for this team.
Mhm.
But you're looking at Jalen Smith's recent games here. He's had at least 11 points in 2 of the last 3. He's had at least 9 points in 8 of the last 10. His points props at 8.5. So I think that the point prop seems a bit low. He had 12 in the meeting last year against OKC. But even the last 20 games, he's had at least 9 points in 14 of the last 19 games. And over 8.5 points is minus 105. So I'll go with Jalen Smith over 8.5 points.
Then we talk about taking opposing big men against the Oklahoma City Thunder, but Miles Turner's not that traditional guy that, he likes to. He's not a good rebounder. I'll say we'll just say that, right? But the one guy that's had success against this Thunder team actually rebounding has actually been Pascal Siakam. Obviously, this is his first game with the Indiana Pacers facing the Thunder, but when he was with the Toronto Raptors in the last 3 games against the Thunder, 23 points, 11 rebounds, 27 points, 16 rebounds, and 25 points, 14 rebounds. So his rebounding prop is set at 7.5 right now at plus 110. I'm gonna be on that here tonight for Pascal Siakam to get the rebounds here tonight. Again, we talked about the pace should be up in this game. Should be seeing a lot of shots going. So I think the rebounding opportunities will be there for both teams, in fact. But I think Siakam could have some success and continue that here tonight, rebounding the basketball for the Indiana Pacers. So 7.5 at plus 110. I definitely do like that for Siakam in this game, rebounding wise. Anything else you like in this game?
No, I already mentioned Jalen Smith as being kind of my sleeper play for this game.
Yep.
I know most of the recent trends favor Neesmith under, except for the fact that now he's probably getting a bump in minutes. So I'm not going to touch the Neesmith unders. I'm just going to stay away from there. I already mentioned Shea points because, duh, I can't really go against it. Trying to think if there's anything else I really want to take here. No, I think that's basically it. I don't have much else to add.
All right. All right. Before we get over to the next game here for tonight on the NBA card, let me tell everyone about the newest sponsor back here on the NBA Gambling Podcast. That's AG1. Look, maybe you're waking up in the morning, you're not as focused as you want to be. You're feeling a bit sluggish, you're having a hard time getting out of bed, or maybe your immune system's acting up, it's not supported. You're feeling a little bit stressed as well. Let AG1 help you out. Let them take all that stress away from you. Because I started using AG1. Number one, I'll tell you this, there's a lot of other types of products like AG1 that just don't taste very good. Number one, because that's a concern for a lot of people. AG1 just the product actually tastes good. It takes a little bit to get used to maybe that first or second drink, but it actually tastes pretty good. And when I started taking it, I could really honestly feel a difference in the morning. There's a little bit more energy. Your gut health feels better. And also was a little bit more relaxed, and I was a little bit more focused as well when I took this AG1 supplements. That's because AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. Since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition, continuously refining their formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline health. And not only did I replace my multivitamins with AG1, but love that every scoop includes probiotics, and digestive enzymes for gut support. They also have vitamin C and zinc to support my immune health as well. And I got my dad on it as well. He's getting up there in age as well. And again, when you're getting older, things that happen sometimes. Your bones start to break down a little bit and things like that. So I recommend it to my family and my friends, like I mentioned. And AG1 has a team of doctors and scientists. It's tested for 950, yes, 950 different contaminants and NSF certified for sports. It's formulated based on the latest science and maintains high quality standards. And like I mentioned, when I started taking it, even my family started taking it as well. They tell me how energetic they feel, that it supports their gut health, their stress levels feel manageable, that they feel that they are getting the nutrients that their body craves as well. So, again, if you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1 year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs when you subscribe. Just go to drinkag1.com/SGPN. Again, that's drinkag1.com/SGPN. Make sure you guys check it out. AG1 as a nutrition supplement or a foundational nutrition support for all of your health. Again, AG1.com. We're also brought to you by Champ. Champ is hosting a free bracket contest. All you got to do is for a chance to win $1,000. So all you got to do is host your own March Madness pool on Champs, and you'll get that extra free entry into the bracket contest. Breakers are determined by who wins first, so you can make sure to register now so you don't miss out. All you got to do is go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs. Again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs. All right, Scott, let's continue rolling here, my man. Next game on the schedule, we've got the Houston Rockets. They are in San Antonio here tonight to take on the Spurs. Spurs did play last night, like we mentioned, against the Golden State Warriors. Did lose that game 112-102. But Rockets coming into this game in San Antonio are a 4-point favorite with a total of 222.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the San Antonio, start here with the Houston Rockets. No Steven Adams, no Tari Eason, no Alperen Şengün, and no Cam Whitmore. So a couple of pieces there, at least the guys that were healthy in Şengün, who avoided serious injury. Us Rockets fans can take a breath of relief there. It's only a severely high ankle sprain. I don't expect him to be back for the rest of the season. Also, Cam Whitmore, who's sitting with a right knee sprain, is going to be missing this game here as well. For the San Antonio Spurs, they did play last night, so they do get that extra time to submit their injury report. I did see that Wemby said, or Coach Pop came out and said that he's unlikely to play here tonight. But again, things always change in the NBA, so keep that in mind if you're going to think that Wemby does end up playing here tonight or not for the San Antonio Spurs. The Rockets laying 4 points here on the road against the Spurs here. Scott, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to lean to Houston. It took a while, but the Rockets finally learned how to play basketball on the road. They've won a couple road games, been playing better recently. Spurs got Wemby back, lost anyway. We've seen that all year. But still, I think Houston's a better team. The only concern is that we saw Şengün give Wemby the business last time they played. I think he had 45 points. And now, of course, Şengün's going to be out. So Houston's going to have to reinvent the offense. I do like VanVleet assists, which I think will be a nice play moving forward, since the offense should be running through him for the most part, at least as a facilitator instead of Şengün. I'm going to lean to Houston. I know usually you want to wait and see when a team has a serious injury to see how this team adjusts its play style without arguably its best player. But the Spurs are just a really bad basketball team. They played yesterday. Game was competitive, so they couldn't really sit anybody. Wemby might not play. We'll see what happens. Maybe a minute restriction. But still, I'm going to lean to Houston. They've been playing better basketball lately. I do think they're still the better team, and I don't think it's that close. So I'm going to lean to the Rockets here. I like VanVleet assists for props, but I do think Houston's the deeper team. Give me the Rockets.
The only thing that gives me pause here about backing the Spurs is that they are on a back-to-back. And I don't trust this Rockets team on the road. Spurs on back-to-back situations this season, 2-8 straight up, 4-6 against the spread, 6-3-1 towards the over. They're giving up 125 points per game in that span. It'll be interesting to see who does get the start here in place of Şengün here tonight. I'm obviously thinking it'll be Liddell for the Rockets in that center spot. But I just think that this will be a game. I know we'll talk about player props here in a second. That it should be a Jabari game here tonight as far as rebounding goes, but the Rockets this season just have not been very good on the road. I know they got the victory against the Blazers the other night as a road favorite, but who's not getting those victories right now against the Blazers? 8-24 straight up, 13-8-1 against the spread. All the Rockets on the road. I'll lean here with the Rockets just because the Spurs are in a back-to-back situation. I just don't know who's going to be playing this game or not. Yeah, so Rockets for me. Thoughts on the total here, Scott? 222.5.
I think I'm going to lean under in this game. I still think Houston's a good defensive team. Şengün has active hands, but I think we both know Şengün's not exactly a good defensive player. So you can make an argument Houston's defense should actually get better in this spot. But I do think I'm going to end up leaning to the under here. Wemby's going to give you rim protection. We saw that game against Golden State was really ugly last night, and that game landed, I think it was 214. I'm going to lean under here, though. I see a physical game. I think you're going to see these teams really just go at it defensively, or at least for parts of this game. I'm going to lean under. And I wonder if Houston's offense will look a little bit out of sorts without Şengün. So I'm going to lean to the under in this game.
Yeah, and that's what I'm curious to see is now obviously the offense is going to go through Jalen Green, who's actually looking pretty good. I don't know what it is that after the All-Star break that he starts to look like the guy that we hoped he would be when we drafted him a couple seasons ago. But he's been really good. He's been getting the shot volume as well. So it'd be interesting to see what Jalen does here tonight for the Rockets as far as being involved on the offensive side and being that guy that the offense is going to run through now without Şengün, at least for the foreseeable future, if not the entire rest of the season. So his points prop right now is at 23.5. So I don't hate that. Again, he's been getting it done. Jabari Smith, I mentioned the rebounds. It's probably going to be at 10.5 now for Jabari Smith. But yeah, it's at 10.5 at -105. I mean, he's done a great job of rebounding the basketball this season for the Rockets. Last 5 games, he's averaging only 6 rebounds, but there was flashes where he was just walking into double-digit rebounds prior to the month of March starting. He ended the month having 16 rebounds, 17, 13, 16 for the Rockets. He did have 11 rebounds in the last game against the Sacramento Kings. So again, I'll probably be looking at his rebounding prop here tonight for Jabari Smith. You mentioned FVV assist. I don't hate that as well. He will be obviously initiating the offense, so I do expect him to be a little bit more involved. Maybe Fred VanVleet double might be worth a look here tonight as well. He's gonna have to do a little bit more scoring as well, but we know he can rack up the assists. So a couple looks there. Anything else you have as far as player props?
Well, to go through the assist numbers here, the double-double's at plus 220. But Van Vliet has been getting assists recently, which is why I brought it up. He's had at least 8 assists in each of the last 5, at least 9 assists in 4 of the last 5, and at least 10 in 3 of the last 5, and now Şengün's out. His prop's 7.5. It is juiced at -150. Point is, though, you can get 9.5 at 190, double-double at like plus 220. I just think Van Vliet's going to be handling a lot of the facilitating responsibilities with Şengün being out, so that's where I'm leaning. I also like Dillon Brooks under 13.5 points. He has been very solid to the under. To go through the exact numbers for Dillon Brooks, I feel like anytime you get an injury to a star player on a team, the books are automatically going to inflate every other person's props. And in this case, I don't agree with Dillon Brooks because recently the man can't score. And I've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. But just to bring it up again, he has not scored more than 14 points in each of the last, just pulling this up, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 straight games with less than 14 points. He's had, just doing the math here, he's had 7 straight games with less than 12. And the game against San Antonio, they played on the 5th. He had 0 in that game. The 2 meetings this season, he had, sorry, the 3 meetings this season. He had 17 in the first meeting, and then he had a
Mhm.
combined 2 points in the last 2 meetings. Yeah, give me Dylan Brooks under 13.5 points. I have to. 10 straight unders for him, at least for this number, and he's put up 2 points in the last 2 meetings combined. I got to take the under on Dylan Brooks' points.
You mentioned Fred VanVleet, and I mentioned the double-double. This is gonna be the 4th matchup between these two teams this season. Fred VanVleet has had a double-double in 2 out of those 3 games. He had 24 points, 12 assists, and then in the first game this season in 45 minutes. I believe that game went into overtime, if I'm not mistaken. And then the last matchup back on March 5th, which was just last week, just last Tuesday, in Houston, 21 points and 10 assists in that game for the for Fred VanVleet. So if you want to either ladder up his assists or just play the double-double here tonight, I think it's a good look here for Fred VanVleet for that player prop. Anything else for this game here, Scott?
No, I think we covered it.
All right, next game on the board, we've got the Boston Celtics. They are in Utah here tonight to take on the Jazz. Currently, as it stands, the Celtics are a 6.5-point road favorite with a total of 230 in this game. Looking at the injury report for the Boston Celtics, they do get that extra time to submit the injury report because they did play last night in Portland. I'll look at their minutes here in a second. And then for the Utah Jazz on their injury report, Taylor Hendricks is out with a left toe injury. Lauri Markkanen continues to be out with right quadriceps contusion. And that is pretty much it. Boston, like we mentioned, did play yesterday in Portland. Now traveling into Utah. They did get the victory last night, 121-99. All 5 starters did play 30 plus minutes last night. Jason Tatum played 36. Derek White 34, Jaylen Brown 33, and Sam Hauser coming off of the bench played 32 minutes last night for this Boston Celtics team. A lot of guys were questionable for this Boston Celtics teams last night, from Jaylen Brown to Derek White. KP did not play last night. We'll see if he ends up playing here tonight for the Boston Celtics. So we'll keep an eye on the injury report for the Celtics throughout the day here. But right now, 6.5 is a number here, Scott, against the Utah Jazz for the Celtics. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to lean Boston in the spot. I really do like what Boston did in the previous game against Portland because they sat half the guys. It felt like Boston fully was preparing to potentially win both the legs of the back-to-back against bottom feeder teams. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
Boston started everybody and now you have to worry about sitting some guys. It seems like they coordinated. So I do like the fact that Boston was willing to sit some guys. Now they might use most of the roster for this one. According to the injury report right now, it might be subject to change. Maybe Porzingis plays tonight. Maybe Drew Holiday plays. We'll see. The point is, though, I do like that Boston was willing to sit some guys in the first leg to try to get guys to play in the second leg. And I do like that. Now, I do agree with Owen. The line does seem a bit low, so it might seem a bit trappy. So it might seem like you should be picking Utah. But I don't want to back Utah. This team's just been really bad. I mean, just simply put, they've had injuries, they don't guard anybody, and Boston, no matter who they start, can score. And Utah is just a team that can't get enough stops. So I'm going to lean Boston. I think Boston is one of the deeper teams in the league. I still would not trust their bench in a playoff series, but against the Utah Jazz and whatever roster they have left, yeah, I think that the Celtics are good enough and deep enough to drop 120 minimum in this game, maybe more.
Mhm.
So I'm going to lean to the Celtics in this spot. I think we're going to end up seeing the Jazz hang in there for a bit, but they are so bad defensively. I just can't back this team. Going through Utah's last couple of games defensively, just to read it off, they gave up 142 to Denver last time out. So they gave up 142 there, 119 to Chicago. They were getting killed in that game, and then they came back and they lost by 2. They gave up 115 to Washington, good win there. 126 to Miami, 115 to Orlando, 124 to Atlanta. You can go down the line. The defense is really not good at all. It's one of the worst defensive units in the league. I'm going to lean to Boston. I just think Boston, no matter who's sitting, still has too much talent for Utah to handle. I'm going to lean to Boston.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Boston here as well. But again, I want to see who plays in this game here. None, or if not, if I'm gonna, I think for me, for Boston, I think I'll back them in the first half. They've been very profitable in the first half, and then we can see being in altitude here in Utah on the second leg of a back to back that maybe that catches up to them here a little bit. But I just also to your point, I think there's too much firepower for this Boston Celtics team here as well. So and again, like you mentioned, like with Utah just struggling on the defensive side of the basketball, it just has not been very good for them. And again, when you have one of the more, if not the best offensive efficient team coming into your building here tonight, um, I think they can put up the points. So I'll go with Boston in the first half. Boston team total over here as well. And last time, if you took a look at the box score and you kind of went through it, it was pretty much Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, at least as far as the starters, who did all the damage. I know you had Sam Hauser coming off of the bench for them that scored 22 points. But I mean, if you do get KP here tonight, you possibly get Drew Holiday. I do expect Tatum to play in this game. Maybe Jalen Brown sits. But I mean, there's been opportunities for those guys to sit in some of those games. Um, and they have, and it's kind of backfired for them. But I think that this is a good spot here in the first half for the Boston Celtics, but team total over for me in this game for sure for the Boston Celtics.
We also didn't mention,
Total,
by the way, or
yeah,
I kind of skipped over it, but I can't take Utah with Markkinen being out. I just can't do it because if we're
yeah,
talking about the firepower and how Boston has so many options to score, what does Utah have? Because Markkinen's
yeah,
arguably the best player. He probably is. They still have Sexton, who we know is solid, but still.
yeah,
Sensabaugh was pretty good since he got inserted into the starting lineup, and we know George has had
mm,
some moments here or there. I'm assuming both of us aren't big John Collins fans. He's been okay recently, but we're not sold on his
yeah,
consistency.
yeah,
Markkinen's their best guy. And you're looking at his
yeah.
numbers. He's averaging 23 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, and now he's out. And you're against one of the better offenses in the league. I just don't trust Utah's scoring ability if they're not going to get enough stops on the defensive end to keep it competitive in a shootout. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I again 100% do think that Laurie Markkinen is their best player. So, um, it just yeah, I mean, look, cause you know what you're gonna get from Laurie Markkinen on a night in and night out. Like you're gonna get a minimum 20 points. You're gonna get 7, 8 rebounds for him for sure. But at the end of the day, you look at the depth of this Utah Jazz team. It's like, all right, is Colin Sexton going to step up one night? Because we've seen flashes throughout the season where he can put up the points. You know, you have Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench, who's pretty consistent for them as well. But as far as starting goes, like, can they keep up with the scoring of the Boston Celtics? Is what first thing that comes to mind to me when I look at this game. So, and again, that's for that reason. I've seen Boston too many times in this third quarter this season, especially where they've just coughed up big leads at the half and let their opponent hang around to then only make it a ball game in the fourth quarter. So that's why I wanted to pivot to the Boston Celtics in the first half, where maybe again Tarlex maybe catch up to them, despite who does or does not play here tonight. So player props, anything you're looking at?
It's pretty difficult because I don't know who's going to play for the Celtics, but I mean, taking opposing centers against Boston worked again last night as Aiton had a monster game, even though they got killed. Do you want to dare take any props on Walker Kessler, or is that a little bit too much to ask?
Um, I just want to see how many minutes he's been playing. So last season, I was going to say, so he's played 3 games against the Celtics in his career. Last season, right around this time, he had 12 points, 14 rebounds, and then about 2 weeks later, 20 points, 10 rebounds. But then they played earlier this season on January 5th in Boston, where he only played 14 minutes. He did have 4 points and 7 rebounds. So do you see a rebounding prop for him?
I'm going to check right now.
And
I
he
see
only
double
played
doubles at
14.
plus 290, so
Okay.
I could check.
Um,
Uh,
so they did
Kessler
play
rebound.
in Boston. And I think the only reason he played 14 minutes because it turned into a blowout because Boston won that game by 29 points.
I see 30. I see one. I see minus 135 actually. For Kessler over 7.5 rebounds. If you
Yeah, I
want
don't
it,
hate that
points
look.
38.5.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would entertain a double double if not. Let's see what John Collins has done against the Celtics. Maybe that might be the look. I know we talked about he's been a little bit inconsistent, but um, Yeah, I mean, he had 22 minutes, 12 points, 11 rebounds in the matchup in Boston earlier this year. So I feel like I would trust John Collins to get more of the consistent minutes because he's been averaging 33 minutes per game over the last 5 games, and he's been in double-digit rebounds in 3 of the last 5 games as well. What I just don't know that Walker Kessler could get into foul trouble and just play himself off of the court for this Utah
Yep.
Jazz team. So I think, and but he's also been in double-digit rebounds in the last 2 games as well, 12 rebounds and 11 rebounds. So I mean, for the value at plus
Trying
290, I don't hate it for his double-double.
You have any thoughts on potentially selling high on Keontae? I know that his points props at 16.5. He's had at least 29 points in 2 of the last 3 games. You interested
Okay.
in the over or the under? Because I find it weird his props still at 16.5 when he's had 29 plus points in 2 of 3.
And that might be a case where maybe the books haven't adjusted to his points prop because it takes some, especially for some of these lesser known players, it takes him a little bit to adjust. I mean, he's shooting the basketball real well, right? Over the last 5 games, especially from 3-point land, he's shooting at 48.6%. Like you mentioned, he's also been getting the minutes as well. Um, I mean, I think I'll probably lean towards the over on him. Just because I know
I was
he's
just
gonna
throwing
get
it
the
out there.
minutes. Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
'Cause I mean, like, he's gonna get the minutes, right? Like, he had 38 minutes against the Denver Nuggets, 43 against Miami, 31 against Orlando, 34 against Atlanta. As long as I think it doesn't turn into a blowout, um, in favor of the Boston Celtics, I think that, he might be a key piece as far as scoring the basketball for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thought about maybe going Jaylen Brown under turnovers, actually, at minus 130. He's had less than 3 turnovers in 6 straight games, and Utah can be creative with their defense. It's not a good unit, but they might double on occasion. But if we think Boston might kill him, I'm not sure how many minutes Brown's going to play in this game. But if you go on under in 6 straight, and I can get your under at minus 130, I'm going to take it. So I think Jaylen Brown under 2.5 turnovers is worth consideration.
All right. All right. Before we get over to the last game of sorry, not the last game, but the next couple games here on the schedule, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NBA season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NBA and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Insert any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Scott, let's continue here with the next game on the schedule. We've got the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are in LA here tonight to take on the Clippers. Currently, as it stands, the Clippers are a 6.5-point home favorite with a total of 215 in this game. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Kyle Anderson is questionable. Anthony Edwards is questionable. Rudy Gobert is questionable. Monte Morris is questionable. And we know that Karl Anthony Towns is going to be out. For the LA Clippers, Paul George is questionable. Kawhi Leonard is questionable. And Russell Westbrook is out. So, I mean, going to be a little difficult to handicap with all these questionable tags to the main players here. But 6.5 in favor of the Clippers here, hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves here. Scott, what are you thinking?
I think conceptually I have to lean to Minnesota because why would I lay 6.5 when one team might be missing half their guys?
Yeah.
And Minnesota's given the Clippers problems anyway so far this season. The Clippers didn't win the last meeting. It was ugly as hell. But the point is the game still came down to the wire, and we saw the Clippers sneak away with a win. Minnesota blew the Clippers out in the previous meeting. So when these teams are healthy, the games are close. Now, Cat is out for probably the rest of the year. So we'll see what happens with Cat. But the Clippers have been sitting guys. We saw PJ Tucker actually scored 7 points. So they had a parade
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that. But they ended up losing that game to the Bucks. But still, point is, the Clippers have been starting to revert back into resting Paul George and Kawhi to keep him healthy for the playoffs, like they should. I do think, though, the spread seems a bit high because if Kawhi's not going to play, then Ant is still the best player on the floor. I think Ant's better than Paul George at this point in their careers. I know that's a hot take or not, but that's where I stand. So I'm going to lean to Minnesota. I just think 6.5 is disrespectful when half of the star players on a team, if not the entire star player core on a team, is questionable. I'm not going to pick the Clippers laying 6.5 based on current form. I'm going to lean to Minnesota.
Yeah, again, Minnesota has been competitive in their games against the Clippers, like you mentioned. The under is 3-0 this season in those meetings, like you mentioned. There was that ugly 89-88 final. About what, 10 days ago, 10 days ago, 89-88. Minnesota won the first meeting this season, 109-105. And then they also won 121-100. So they've been doing a really good job defensively against this Clippers team and really limiting them. And now, like we mentioned on the injury report, with Kawhi and Paul George both being questionable here tonight, and no Russell Westbrook. After that, I mean, it's obviously those are your main 3 out of your 4 guys that are or one's out for sure. Possibly we'll see maybe Paul George sit here tonight as well. I'm going to quickly take a look if there's a back-to-back situation here for the Clippers, because then I would probably assume that maybe one of these guys like Paul George may just end up sitting here. Let's see. Clippers schedule. No, so they do not play tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna lean with the Timberwolves here again, plus 6.5. I don't think I'm gonna lay this number here with the Clippers. Wolves, they've been feisty, man, even especially without, obviously without Cat. They won that first game against the Pacers with an incredible performance from Anthony Edwards, the incredible block that he did have. They did their best to stay competitive in that first quarter and first half for the Lakers game, but eventually the Lakers did pull away in that game. But I think in this spot here, just so like you mentioned, that just a matchup between the Clippers and the Timberwolves, that they've just been able to at least hold their own in their games here, especially even without Cat. I think that they'll be okay in this game here. So, long story short, Timberwolves plus the 6.5. I'm on the under here. I don't think that's going to change here for me, even at this low of a number. You have any thoughts on the total?
I mean, it's such a low total, but these games have been rock fights. But Cat's not going to play, obviously, and I don't know who's playing for the Clippers. So I guess I'm leaning under. Like I don't have much, but I don't know who's playing in this game, so I'm not going to take an over.
Yeah. Player props.
Well, we got to talk about Ant points, right? I mean, if we're assuming the Clippers might be sitting some guys, Ant is the only reason why this team is still competitive right now. I've been critical of Minnesota's offense, rightfully so, for the entire season. And whether you like Cat or not, at least he has offensive talent. What does this team have? Like, you're looking at Gobert. We know Gobert is solely a dunker. He can't really do anything else. McDaniels can shoot a little bit. Is he a guy who can create his own shot? Not really. Sometimes maybe, but you don't trust it. Connolly is not really a shot, say, creator at all. He's kind of just a spot-up shooter at this point. And you said Anderson's out. Anderson's not a great offensive player either, but occasionally he can, create something. What do they have? They got Naz Reid, who I really like, and you have Ant.
Reid.
So don't you kind of have to lean to Ant and Naz Reid to have good offensive games if Minnesota's going to hang in there?
Yeah, I wanted to get behind Naz Reid here tonight. His props obviously not listed yet, since he's coming off of the bench. But I mean, he stepped up in the last 2 games for even if you go back even 4 games, he's been in double-digit scoring figures. But the last 2 games is where he's really done real well, providing that scoring support to Anthony Edwards, where he's had 25 and 34 points, and he's been on fire from 3-point land, 12 of 21 over the last 2 games for Naz Reid. So I'll be curious to see what that prop number does come out at. Because again, he is going to get the minutes because he played 32 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He played 42 in the game against the LA Lakers. And if, like we mentioned, if Kyle Anderson does in fact end up sitting here tonight, and if you probably see Rudy Gobert end up sitting here tonight, that he's going to have to play the bulk of the minutes. So, yeah, I'll look out for Nas Reed props in this game, whether it's points, whether it's 3-pointer made, or even if you want to look at rebounds for Nas Reed. I mean, he's done a pretty decent job of rebounding the basketball. He's had at least 5 rebounds in 5 straight games. He's had at least he had 8 rebounds against the Pacers. He had 11 against the Clippers in that game that they played last Sunday. And he had a really bad shooting night in that game against the Clippers, where we talked about that 89-88 final. He was 0 of 7 from the field, 0 of 3, but I think he's in good form right now. So I think Nasri would be the guy that I would look at in this game.
I'm trying to think if there's any props I'm tempted by
I
besides
want
what we already talked
to
about.
look at Zubac in this game, but
I was looking at Gobert. I was trying to think if I actually wanted to get on the horse, but his rebounds are at 15.5. That I can't do. I thought about it, but 15.5 is a bit high for me. I know he had 16 last time against the Clippers. The game was a rock fight, and he played 40 minutes, so I can't take that. He has had at least 18 rebounds in 2 of the last 3. The points are usually mid-teens, but I believe that's where he's priced at for this game as well. He's at 15.5. Blocks at 2.5. He's had at least 3 blocks in 3 straight meetings against the Clippers. That might be the angle.
Mhm.
It might be the over 2.5 blocks for Gobert at plus money. But
okay.
yeah, Gobert's numbers, of course, are inflated because Cat's not playing. So they're expecting Gobert to get a bigger run. I guess it's the blocks. I think I'm going to lean to Gobert blocks in that game at 2.5. You know, I made a pact. I can't take the rebounds, so I'll go with the blocks instead.
And the exact reason why we can't take it, because over the last 5 games, he's had more than 14 rebounds in 4 of the last 5 games. And the one game, I think it was me and Terrell had talked about last week, looking at Rudy Gobert rebounds, it was at 14.5 against the Pacers. He ended up with 14. And then the next night, we're like, watch, he's going to get over this number. He came back with 17. And that's why we don't like backing on, or at least I don't like getting behind Rudy Gobert rebounds here. But again, the matchup is there for him, and he's had a lot of success rebounding the basketball. And like, Scott, you mentioned blocking shots against the LA Clippers. So I think the pivot, like you mentioned, probably is going to be on the blocks, especially at plus money for Rudy Gobert. Do you have anything else for this game?
No, I think we basically covered everything. Maybe
All right,
Norm
last
Powell,
game.
if you want to go for his points. We know with Westbrook being out, somebody's gonna have to shoot the ball in that bench unit, and Norm Powell is, I'd say, a candidate to win 6th Man of the Year. It's going to Monk. It should have always gone to Monk, but still,
Yeah.
Powell's been very good. And I believe last meeting, even in that rock fight, didn't he have 6 threes in that game in the last meeting against Minnesota?
24 points, 9 of 13 from the floor, 6 of 8. So he was responsible for about 30% of the scoring in that game for the Clippers.
Pretty much
26
off the
point,
bench. So,
27% of the scoring. So yeah, off the bench as well. So yeah, give it again. This is a game where you want to pay attention to the injury report, because there'll be value on guys. As far as props perspective in this game, for both sides, in fact, because we can mention that a lot of the key players and star players are all questionable for both sides in this game. Scott, let's get to the last game of the night here. We've got the Milwaukee Bucks. They are in Sacramento here tonight to take on the Kings. This number's been kind of going back and forth. It opened up +1 in favor, -1 in favor of the Kings. Bounced to -1 to the Bucks. Got as high as 2.5, and now has settled at -1.5 for the Bucks here tonight. So really, as it stands on DraftKings, -1.5 for the Bucks. Total is sitting at 235.5. Looking at the injury report, started here with the Milwaukee Bucks. So Chris Middleton has been actually upgraded to questionable for this game, and Marjon Beauchamp is also questionable here tonight. Probable tags on AJ Green and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And for the Sacramento Kings, Keegan Murray is questionable here tonight. Other than that, everybody is a go for the Sacramento Kings. The Bucks coming off of the victory against the LA Lakers. They've looked really good, actually, over the past.
I think you mean Clippers.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Clippers. I'm sorry, the Bucks coming off the game against the Clippers, and they lost the game, in fact, to the Lakers. Now closing out their road trip here in Sacramento before they fly back home to take on the Sixers. 1.5 is the number right now in favor of the Bucks in Sacramento here tonight. Scott, what are you thinking?
I'm going to lean Bucks. You know my thoughts on this Kings team. I'm not a fan. They're not good defensively. They're up and down. We saw them beat the we saw them beat the Lakers handily, and then they immediately lost, or they almost lost to the Spurs. And then you looked at the last couple games, they ended up losing to the Rockets at home. So even when the Kings have great wins, they immediately respond by falling back down to earth. Do you know the head-to-head history between the Bucks and the Kings?
So I was talking to Chris last night about this game because I was scratching my head on why it opened at +1. And he told me that the Bucks at minimum have won 10 straight against the Kings.
Do you know the exact number?
I don't know the exact number.
They've won
It's
15
10 at minimum.
straight.
Okay, there you go.
The Bucks have won 15 straight games against the Kings. 15. And to go through the actual years here, they faced off basically at least once a year. So, yeah, give me Milwaukee. I'm not going to overthink this. If you win 15 straight against the team and Giannis is playing and the Kings are a team that we know doesn't guard anybody, and we know that the Kings are a team that has been very up and down, excuse me, I'm going to give the Bucks credit. At least recently, they've looked better with Doc Rivers. They've looked better. Is it going to matter in the playoffs? Probably not. But as of right now, they're a better team now than they were earlier in the year with Griffin. 15 straight wins. I'm going to take Milwaukee.
Yeah, I already played this last night at -1, -1.5, -2. I mean, I'll go ahead and say right, this is probably going to be my lock for the day. Like you mentioned, 15 straight wins. 10-5, or sorry, 10-5 against the spread are the Bucks since 2016. 14-0-1 to the over, where the Bucks are averaging 127 points per game against the Sacramento Kings in that span. And also did a little bit more digging on some more trends here for the Sacramento Kings here. So they haven't been very good, like you mentioned, at home, but they also haven't been very good in non-conference games as well. So this season, whether they're at home or whether they've been on the road. So at home this season in non-conference games, 6-6 straight up, but they're 4-8 against the spread. And then if you want to trim this down to, or expand it, I should say, in games against non-conference opponents at home since the 2022 season. I use 2022 because that's when Doc Rivers took over for the Sacramento Kings as the head coach. 11-16 straight up. And then if they're playing, let's just say, better opponents with a winning percentage of at least 600 in those spots, Scott, since 2022, 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the spread. They're giving up 131.6 points per game in that span. And I'll just quickly read it off here. So since last season, they gave up 120 to the Cavs, 129 to the Sixers, 133 to the Bucks, 132 to the Celtics, and then 144 to the Boston Celtics back on December 20th of this season. And then this one is what stood out to me. Since Mike Brown took over in non-conference games with teams with the winning percentage of above 600 or better, 1-9 straight up, 2-8 against the spread, 8-2 towards the over, giving up 129.7 points per game. So all that, I say Bucks here -1.5 for me for sure. Total Bucks team total over for me here, Scott. We'll talk about player props here in a second, but do you have anything in the total?
No, I like the over. I'm not going to take it under with Sacramento. So
okay. There's one more thing I was going to mention, but it completely just went over my head. But yeah, Bucks team total over, like you mentioned, against Sacramento. This is going to be a tough matchup for them, honestly. I think, again, with Giannis coming in and Dame that's starting to look good as well.
From
Which one?
Casey, the over is 22-0 since 2012 in these meetings.
Since 2012.
22 straight overs? That's fun.
That's crazy.
I don't have the stats in front of me. I believe that, though.
Yeah, I can look it up here real quick. I don't doubt
22
Casey
straight
at all
overs,
for a
though?
minute.
I mean, I'm looking at these totals, and like every total has gotten.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, I don't know, because I see like 213s and I see a couple of lower ones in 2017. But from 2018 onward, pretty much every game has broken 230 and change, and a lot of them have gotten into the 250s. So yeah, at least the last like 10 have gone over.
So since so I trimmed it down to 2018, like you mentioned. Kings 0-11 straight up, 4-7 against the spread, 11-0 to the over, giving up 133 points per game to the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'll quickly just read off the last 5 games since the 2022 season, what the Bucks have scored: 133, 133, 135, 126. And then the 2 games last season, one game last season, 133. And then the meeting back in January 14th in Milwaukee, they scored 143 points. And that game did go into overtime. But I mean, you get it here. It's all in front of us here. 11-0 to the over, 22-0 to the over. So yeah. All right. Anything else? Player props. What are we looking at?
Well, Giannis is battling some tendonitis, but I still think he's going to have a solid game. Question is, I want to take his assists instead because he's had 10 plus assists in 2 straight games. He has had 34 points in back-to-back games, but now the knee's bothering him. But of course, we like a higher scoring game. So I guess I'm leaning over anyway. You like Dame in this game? Because he had the game-winning buzzer beater in the first meeting. He's been very good lately. You want Dame threes?
Yeah, I won Dame threes. I like Giannis in the spot here as well. Quickly just trying to pull up what Dame has done against the Kings for the past several games at least. So like you mentioned, he did have that buzzer beater against the Bucks back on January 14th. 40, and again, I don't like using the Portland numbers because he was pretty much the offense at that point for them. But I mean, he's been really good. The assists have been there for him as well against the Sacramento Kings. So if you want to take a look at his assists going over, his points going over, his threes going over, he's just in good form right now. And I think that's exactly what that Doc Rivers, I think, has figured out with both Giannis and Damian Lillard playing together because they've both been really good. The last 5 games, like you mentioned, since he's been shooting the ball real well, he's averaging 28 points per game in that span and also averaging 8 assists in that span as well. Back-to-back double-doubles as well for Dame. 28 and 12 assists against the Lakers, and then the last game against the Clippers, 35 points and 11 assists in that game as well. Giannis, you mentioned, I know he's dealing with a tendonitis, but he's just a huge matchup nightmare for this Sacramento Kings team. So last 5 games for Giannis against the Kings: 38, 18, 36 and 10, 35 and 6, 46 and 12. And then he did record a triple double in the last game back in January 14th. In 40 minutes, he had 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. So obviously that double number is going to be at a monumental minus price for Giannis at minus 450. If you want to get spicy here tonight and maybe look at his triple double, I think if you build it out, you'll probably get a better number because his triple double is at 6-1 here tonight. So, yeah, maybe build it out for Giannis here, but I think it'll be a big Giannis and Dame game here tonight. Anything else for this game?
I got to be tempted by Monk just in general. I don't think that Milwaukee's bench unit is going to be able to stop him. You can argue maybe Pat Bev, but I don't think Pat Bev's going to be chasing Monk around screens and all this other stuff. So, no, I think Monk's going to have a pretty good game too.
All right. That is the last game of the night on this
apparently
Tuesday.
we skipped one.
Or did
apparently
we?
we skipped the Wizards game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can go back to that. My fault. Yeah, let's do that game. I'm sorry. Let me do a banner here real quick. We got the Wizards. They are a 2.5-point favorite in Memphis here tonight to take on the Grizzlies. Currently seeing this number at 2.5 with a total of 220 in this game. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams here. Let's start here with the Washington Wizards. Let me scroll back up here. All right, so Marvin Bagley is going to be out. Rashawn Holmes is questionable. Isaiah Livers is going to be out, and Landry Shamet is going to be out For the Memphis Grizzlies, you already know the usual suspects that are going to be out. So Jaren Jackson Jr. is out for this game as well. And Vince Williams Jr. is out, and Zaire Williams is out as well. Let me find who's actually going to be starting for this team here tonight, Scott, while you give your handicap for this game.
Yeah, my handicap is pretty simple. This game's awful.
There's probably a reason why.
This game's terrible. I'm going to go with the Wizards because they've been in decent form recently. But yeah, I'm going to be focusing on other games that actually matter. But yeah, the Wizards have been better lately. Nice comeback win against Miami. Classic Miami loss where they were winning and then they fell apart at home. But the Wizards, they really, really don't want to finish below Detroit. They really don't want to finish below Detroit. They've been better lately. So I'll lean to Washington. There you go.
Yeah, so the starters here tonight for Memphis are going to be Luke Kennard, John Conchar, Jake LaRivia, Santi Aldama, and Trey Jameson for the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, Jesus, if you just look at who's may not play on the list on RotoWire, it's absolutely amazing to see how long that list is. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Washington's been playing better. This line has moved in their favor. I believe it was at -1.5 last night. It's up to 2.5 now. So not going to be watching this game, not going to be betting this game. If you want to pick from us, Wizards -2.5. Player props, Denny Avdia. I think somebody mentioned it in the chat. Who was it? Yeah, Ryan asking Denny Avdia rebounds. That's been something that all of us have actually been on for Denny in this game, especially without any type of front court depth for this Wizards team. And he's done a really good job of rebounding. He's had at least double-digit rebounds in 3 of the last 4 games for the Washington Wizards. So if you want to play his double-double again, or if you just want to play his rebounds and ladder that up, I don't hate that look. But that's probably the only player prop I would consider in this game. If you want to look at Tyus Jones' assist, that's been really good as well. But do you have any player props looking at here, Scott?
Avdia rebounds. I feel like that's been a pretty steady option for the show, and especially made a lot of money with the double-double props on Avdia recently. Tyus Jones assists, but it is a revenge game for Tyus Jones, if that matters. But I don't really have much else. These teams are terrible, and I'll be watching something else.
Yeah, let's see if they've already played this season. So they played very early back in October. Yeah, 28th. Wizards won that game 113-106. Tyus Jones in that game had 14.7 assists, but again, like we mentioned, he's just been on a tear as far as racking up the assists. He had 16 in that game against the Miami Heat. So for those of you who want to bet this game, there you go. All right. Lock and dog time, Scott, and then we'll do our Underdog Fantasy entry here for tonight. You want to lead us off?
Sure. I actually thought about doing the same game for both my lock and my dog, because there are 2 plays that I actually like. I definitely want Van Vliet double-double at like plus 220 as my dog.
Yeah.
Question is what I want for the lock. I know you're going to take Milwaukee, so I'm not going to bother. I'll let you take that. What do I want to go with here? You know what? I think I'm going to go with the same game. I'm going to go with the Rockets-Spurs game. Give me the Dillon Brooks under 13.5. Let's roll with it. He's looking at the last couple of games. He's gone under 14 points in. I said it before. I'm trying to remember how many games in a row it's been. I think it's been 10 straight games. Yeah, it's been 10. He's gone under this number. He's had less than 12 points in 7 straight. He's had 2 points combined in the last 2 games against the Spurs. I get the argument is with Şengün being out, other guys are going to have to step up. Does Brooks create anything off the dribble, or does he just go around screens and chuck threes?
Yeah, he turns into, he's Dillon Brooks in those first 3 quarters, and then for whatever reason, it was early in the season, he turned into Steph Curry in that 4th quarter. But yeah, like you mentioned, 7 straight games he's gone under this number for the Rockets. So I think, again, if it's guys that are going to step up for this Rockets team, it's going to have to be the Jalen Greens of the world, the Jabari Smiths of the world, the Fred VanVleets of the world, Amen Thompson coming off of the bench. Those guys. The shot volume may be there for Dillon Brooks, but it's the fact that you also have to make your shots as well. And I would say 60+% of his shots are coming from the 3-point line, and we already know how that story goes with Dillon Brooks.
Well, I'm bringing it up because the last meeting against the Spurs, where he did score 0, he only took
Mhm.
3 shots. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
kind of wondering what the role for Brooks is going to be in this game. But I'm going to go with his under 10 straight, under 14. I'll let it ride again. Give me Dylan Brooks under 13.5 points as my lock. What can possibly go wrong? For my dog, I am going to go with Van Vliet, double-double, which I alluded to before. The price is just too good, especially now that I think the ball should be in his hands all the time. With Şengün being injured, it's plus 210. He has had at least 9 assists in. I mentioned it before, but I'm trying to remember what the exact number is. He's had at least 10 assists in 3 of the last 5, at least 9 assists in 4 of the last 5. And in the head to head, he has had at least 10 assists in 2 of the 3 meetings this season. So I think the ball's going to be in his hands a lot. We know Van Vliet plays a ton of minutes, and we know the Spurs aren't exactly a good defensive team. Give me Van Vliet double-double at plus 210.
All right, there we go. All right, for my lock, I already mentioned it. It's going to be the Bucks here tonight, minus the 1.5 currently over on DraftKings. I mean, we talked about how they've pretty much just owned this series. Would you say, Scott? 15 straight they've won against
Yep.
the Sacramento Kings, and Casey, and also pointing out that they've gone over this number in 22 straight games. So Bucks, I'm all over the Bucks here tonight. Bucks minus 1.5. Bucks team total to go over here as well. For my dog, this is where it kind of gets interesting. I think
Going
Minnesota is
Timberwolves?
tempting. Yeah,
Okay.
Minnesota is tempting at plus 210. It might just have to be some type of either points ladder or a rebounds ladder. You know what?
Do you have a
I
guy?
w-
Do you have a guy in mind?
yeah, Siakam. Remember we talked about he's had a lot of
Yeah.
success rebounding the
Mhm.
basketball. It's at plus 110 right now. I know that's a baby dog, but we'll ladder that up a little bit as well. So let's go Siakam rebounding prop here tonight. So over 7.5 is at plus 110. 10 plus is at plus 290. And if you really want to get spicy, 12 plus rebounds for Siakam tonight is at plus 750. And again, like I mentioned, when he was with the Toronto Raptors going up against this Thunder team, he was in double digit rebounds in the last 3 games. So he had 11 rebounds, 16 rebounds, and 14 rebounds. And again, when we talk about this Pacers team, don't really have that traditional big man. I know we talked about Miles Turner, but he's not really a rebounding type of center. So I think that's where Siakam can benefit in this game. So over 7.5 rebounds at plus 110, and we'll ladder that up. 10 plus is at plus 290. And if you want to sprinkle a little bit on the 12 plus rebounds at plus 750, I think that's a look here as well for Pascal Siakam for my dog here for tonight. Scott, let's do our underdog fantasy entry here for tonight. Fell a little bit short, man. We've been getting 2 out of 3 for the past, I don't know how many entries that we've done. We've all been falling 1 entry short. So hopefully we can get to the window. I know you and I cashed last week on Tuesday for our underdog fantasy entry. So hopefully we can get back to the winning ways here tonight. Again, go to underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code NBASGPN. If you've already signed up, do us a favor, get your family, friends involved, coworkers involved, anybody that's in a legal state and they are above the age of 18. Yeah, definitely would love the support for the NBA Gambling Podcast. Again, NBA SGPN promo code. You get a first deposit bonus of up to $100 for that first deposit. All right. So I think we both do like Van Vliet here on his assist here, right? Scott, you want to start with that?
I'm assuming it's going to be a flat 8, but yes, I still like it at a flat 8.
Yeah, yeah, it's at 8. So we'll go
Yep.
higher on that. Okay, what else?
I'm trying to think of what else we talked about. I don't know if I want to take Brooks lower as well on that, because I don't know if you want to just run back my lock and dog plays, but um, trying to think of what other
Um,
plays we were tempted
let's
by. You want Avdia
see.
rebounds?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Where did my screen go? Oh,
He's
there we
kind of
go.
earned
All right.
our respect on the show,
Oh yeah.
so we'll keep
Yeah,
running it back with him.
he's made us good money. His rebounds are at 9.5, so we'll go higher on that. And then Dylan Brooks is at, you said 11.5 was the number for your lock?
His was at 13.5.
Okay, yeah, he's at 12.5 on underdog. So
Yes, that's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what else we could be tempted to
Was
take
it
here.
Kessler rebounds or
I don't know if I actually liked
uh
Kessler. I just brought it up.
no way I'm putting Rudy
Ant's
Gobert in
questionable.
there.
Yeah,
You want to go like
I'm
Giannis
not
or
ready. I'm
Dame?
not ready to do that. You want to do Dame threes?
Yeah, it's at 3.5.
Sure, we can
All
do
right.
that.
All right. So there we go. All right. So our Underdog Fantasy entry tonight for the Tuesday schedule, we've got Fred VanVleet. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. Fred VanVleet of the Houston Rockets, higher 8 assists. We've got Denny Avdia, higher 9.5 rebounds against the Memphis Grizzlies here tonight. And then we've got Damian Lillard of the Milwaukee Bucks to go higher 3.5 3-pointers here tonight against the Sacramento Kings. That $20 entry will get you 120 in return for the entry here tonight. Again, UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code NBA SGPN, that first deposit bonus of up to $100 using our promo code NBA SGPN. All right, Scott, that's going to do it, my man, for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast. Nice 6-game schedule here tonight. Hopefully, we did find some more winners to give out to the people. Feeling good about the card here tonight. But anything else you want to mention before we go our separate ways?
No, I'm looking forward to the games tonight. Should be back tomorrow with Terrell. I believe I'm also doing the MLB show tomorrow. Is that right?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, so I'll be
AL
on
East tomorrow.
baseball too. Yeah, and I got tennis later in the week. So a lot of podcasts coming up. Looking forward to it.
There we go. Yeah. A lot of sports going on, obviously, with conference tournaments. NBA's in full swing, Players Championship, and like Scott mentioned as well, with tennis going on as well. So sports, and more sports. So again, good time to tap in with us at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. The guys are grinding. A lot of good work has been going on all across the network. We'll be back tomorrow at the usual time with Scott and Terrell, 11:05 Eastern here on the NBA Gambling Podcast. If you want to tap us with us on the live stream on YouTube, also do us a favor, make sure you subscribe to the live stream as well at NBA Gambling Podcast on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment as well. I'll go through the parlay a little contest that we did yesterday. I just didn't get time to do it, so I'll do it later on today. So we'll hopefully shout out the winner by tomorrow or Thursday on the pod. Make sure to follow Scott on Twitter at Reichel Radio. You can follow me there at SportsNerd824. Also follow the NBA Gambling Podcast account at SGPN Till then, good luck with your bets tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.